Hail jabronis and welcome to Real Talk number 10. Today's topic is going to be AI cover art. More specifically, is it ethical and should it be accepted in the indie community? To start with the first question, is it ethical? I'm going to say no. Now, I'm going to be very specific here. I do not believe it's ethical to use it on any book or product that you are going to sell and ask for money for. Why? Well, because it has taken art, pictures, from folks without their permission, right? These programs are taking reference material directly from its source, mashing it up, rendering it, putting filters over it, you name it, to come up with the end piece of art. None of those creators for any of that material are being paid for that material, unless it came from, stock art or photos that are free already online, but we know it's taking from more than that. It doesn't matter if it's just taking a nose or one small aspect from anyone's art. If it's taking it from them without their permission and without paying them, to me, it's unethical. And I also believe it's unethical to sell something that has AI art or AI tied to it without letting people know. I think that's disingenuous. Now, for the second question of should it be accepted in the indie community, I'm going to say no, hell no. The indie community is supposed to be setting itself apart from traditional publishing, right? Having true creativity, being able to work untethered. And to me, if you want to be as creative as possible, that means putting that creativity into your cover art. Real art. People argue, yeah, it takes creativity to come up with these prompts and do all these different iterations, but to me it takes more creativity to create your own layouts, to work with an artist that is very experienced to be able to create the best cover art possible, right? To use your mind to generate the best art possible versus letting a computer generate it for you. It's basically just taking small ideas that you have and then multiplying them tenfold by taking art and reference material from a ton of different creators. To me, that's kind of the opposite of being creative. So now the reason why I'm doing this video is recently in the indie community, I'm seeing some AI cover art novels being promoted and being propped up. And I've seen this from time to time, but more recently I'm seeing it more. And that's very disheartening because I see all these comic artists and all these novelists with fantastic products, books, and they have real cover art by real artists, and they're being kind of pushed aside while these books with AI cover art are being propped up. I think that's something that the indie community needs to try to squeeze out of the community. Again, if you want to stand out and change the landscape, if you want to actually create the best products possible in order to show the mainstream or show the market that you're as good or better than traditional publishing, then that means your entire book, inside and outside, needs to be fully fleshed out, right? There needs to be maximum effort put into them. Now, I also had an interaction about a year ago with an individual who was talking about how he was going to use AI cover art and just showing examples of his AI art. And lo and behold, that person's had several successful crowdfunding campaigns raising $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And so I posed the question of, if you're raising all this kind of money, why would you use AI art? And that person said, well, because AI or traditional art's too expensive. And I'm thinking, I mean, all you need to use is 5-10% of those funds that you're getting from backers to produce your book to fund your cover art. I mean, you could even do with all of your fan base, you could do a crowdfund simply to raise the money for the cover art and then offer people up a free bookmark or trading card, something fun. And they just doubled down on it. You know, they didn't see any ethical issues with it. They had no issue with using the AI art. And they ended up doing a crowdfunding campaign with AI art attached to it. And you're seeing all these people like, oh, that art's so cool, and I love how the characters look. Some of which realize it's AI, some of which do not. And I don't believe it was, put on the campaign that it's using AI art. Meanwhile, again, you have all these folks with campaigns with real art, real creativity. I don't think the indie community should be promoting that by any means. And I think it poses some massive risks to the indie community because there's going to be scammers and grifters out there that are going to call themselves artists. They're going to charge cover art prices, and people are going to hire them. And those people that hire them may not know that they're using AI art. And that I've already seen two really good examples of folks where, they hired an artist, their books started getting exposure, they even had their books in cover art contests, and then poof, somebody was suspicious, ran it through, a program or whatnot to determine if it's using AI, and the art did have AI in it. And that was crushing for those authors. They said they were unaware. I believe them. And, they had to then do some course correction. They had to hire new artists, get new cover art done. They lost, obviously, all the money from the first person that they hired. And it, left a bad mark on them in the community, unfortunately, because some people didn't believe them. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. People that are going to offer lower than usual prices for what looks like higher quality cover art, and there's a good chance they're not going to tell people that it's AI. And you're also going to have people charge several hundred, if not 1,000 or thousands of dollars for cover art and not tell those people that it's AI. And what's that going to do? Once those people find out, they're going to be afraid to hire any artist. It's going to damage the community of artists that could actually provide great cover art at great prices. And so I think the indie community really needs to band together to promote real art and stop propping up books that are using AI. Now, on the topic of cost, that specific example with that interaction that I had, the person said that they're trying to make a living off of their indie books. I mean, that's your choice if you're trying to do that. But let's be honest, unless you have, some real restrictions or something, I mean, you could work for a week or do a side job for a couple months, once a week. It wouldn't take that long, right, to save up $500. One of the biggest problems is that a lot of people in the indie space, they're getting recommendations or referrals for artists that specifically do like popular novel cover art. And they're charging thousands of dollars, which is pretty crazy. And if it is thousands of dollars, right, that art should be mind-blowing. And let's be honest, there's not a lot of mind-blowing art on novel covers these days. There's some really pretty ones. There's some that look really good, but it's hard to tell which ones would cost, that really, really high rate. And there's a very good chance there are artists out there that could match that quality and be much more affordable. And so one thing I'm trying to help writers realize is that there's a huge pool of artists that are very affordable. You could pay just a couple $100s for even a great wraparound cover. And as I mentioned in a previous Real Talk, I think it was number 9 about cover art, or number 8. You need to use your entire real estate, right? Front, back, spine. Introduce your characters. Introduce the storyline. Right? Utilize all that space. It's all marketing material. It's what's going to pull them into the book to read your pitch, or to read the pitch on your crowdfunding. And so I think that's a huge risk there. Are people getting tricked, and then also being having a lot of apprehension going forward. But again, people need to start sharing their artists in a sense, right? Like, I'm trying to promote my artists as much as possible. I'm not trying to hoard them. I want other people to have great cover art as well, and I want my artists to make more money, right? It's their dream to be able to work all day doing their art and to get known doing their art, because they're doing it the right way and the hard way. And so I think we need to start promoting cover artists that are honest, that are really high quality, and letting people know, like, hey, these people are available, reach out to them. And there's also this kind of stigma, I think, in the indie novel community of, well, why would I reach out to comic book artists, right? They just do comic book style art. Well, it's not necessarily true. A lot of these guys are very versatile. There's different types of art that they can do, right? Traditional pencils, inks, hand-painted art, and also digital art. I have all 3 on my project. And I'm telling you guys, there are plenty of artists out there that can do fantastic covers for under 1,000, under 500, even lower. You just got to be patient. You got to look, and you just got to reach out to folks and just, scroll through their pages too. Look at some examples of their art. See what lines up with, your story, your characters. And don't be afraid, even if it does look like a little bit like comic book art, it can still look phenomenal compared to other novel, covers. And there are some really realistic and highly detailed, comic covers out there. I intentionally wanted mine to look a little bit, comic book-like, because my story, the characters were inspired by comic books, comic book characters, comic book movies. And some do overlook my book because of that. And they might consider AI art cover, books with AI art on the cover instead, which is crazy. So yeah, I really, want to help indie novelists realize, hey, there's a huge pool of artists out there, and let's, spread the word and, try to get people away from this idea of, like, I have to use AI or I have to use stock images. Because let's be honest, if you don't put a lot of effort or resources into your cover art, it's going to limit your potential readership base. It's gonna, it's gonna limit your sales, especially if you use AI. All the people that are aware of AI, what it looks like, that, like myself, are like, hey, I don't want to buy any books that has AI in it. You just limited yourself, and you're already limiting yourself naturally, because if you're in a specific genre, only certain people will read certain genres and things like that. So why limit yourself more? You need to be patient. You need to make sure you put together the best cover art possible that doesn't limit your, potential base of readers, and, has that wow factor. It is your marketing. People do judge books by their cover, and rightfully so to an extent, right? If someone puts a lot of effort and passion into the cover art, then there's a good chance the interiors are going to match. Now, with comics, you can look through the interior pages to see if that's the case. Novels, right, you might just get a small, sample. So I think it's really, really important that the indie community starts to band together to promote real artists and real art. Um, I mean, come on, that's the only way to set yourself apart. Um, so yeah, the other thing too that this ties into my last two videos about the Iron Age and Comicsgate is that I'm seeing folks in the Iron Age promoting AI art and AI books. And, if it's supposed to be this movement or era, right, if you were to compare it to the Golden Age, the Silver Age, right, all of the art and books that were produced during those eras, inspired, millions, inspired thousands of artists to create the best art possible because the art was phenomenal. The content was phenomenal. At least the content and the art that, right, has been, kind of put in the limelight and admired over the years. And the Iron Age is some of the folks are propping up books that are heavily using 3D assets and even AI. Part of the problem is they're seeing financial success with some of these creators, and that is kind of their standard, or that's like, hey, everyone, we should be trying to get to that level. Look at what this person did. Their Iron Age, using it to, hopefully ride some of the clout or popularity. But it should be based off the content, right? The art as well. You should want the Iron Age to be known for these phenomenal books, right? These phenomenal stories, and have examples that line up with that. And there are plenty that exist. If it's actually an era, right? If you look at Cyberfrog, if you look at, Monster MD, Terror in the Trenches, all these, Kozar, all these awesome books in the indie space, right? That's what you should be, marketing as like, hey, look at what the Iron Age has produced, not just, hey, look at this person that's raised millions of dollars. And then, hey, look at their book, it's awesome. And either not realize or be aware of the fact that, they're using 3D assets and doing shortcuts. That should not be the content that you are centering your era or movement around. And you shouldn't be promoting AI. It's anti-creativity. It's not real. So I do think that again could damage the ability to market yourself using that tag, and trying to grow the movement, the era, whatever you consider it. In Comicsgate at least, most of the books that are raising a lot of money, the quality is on par, with that level of funding. The great content is getting funding. I mean, you're always going to have some exceptions to the rule, and it is a very, oversaturated market, the indie space in general. And so, yeah, it's harder for newer creators to get really high funding, but there are books that don't get much funding that are better than some of the books that get a ton of funding across the entire indie space. And financial success does not equate to quality, and I'll have to do a separate video on that. But I've gotten into arguments with people of saying, oh well, if it raised a bunch of money, then that means it's high quality. We all know there are cars and many movies out there that have made a ton of money for companies, but we're shit. So, that argument I think is nonsense. So I do hope over time, the people in the Iron Age start to focus more on like examples, with proof of great content when it comes to comics, novels, and, cover art, instead of just focusing on, someone's reach, their financial success or popularity. It should be, based on, like, hey, let's really promote the best stuff out there. I mean, promote everyone, don't get me wrong, but if you want to shine a light on the movement or the era, you need to make sure that those phenomenal projects that people should be striving to, match the quality are in that spotlight for everyone to see. And going back to the topic about cost, I'm going to really try to, do more posts on Twitter and stuff. Just you know, letting like novelists know, like, hey, I know a bunch of artists. Anybody out there that is looking for cover art, hey, reply with what you're looking for, and then I'll make another post or something to try to find artists that are open for commissions and that could, have a chat with them. So hopefully we can connect more folks so that they're not so tempted by using AI, or they're not tempted to use, shortcuts, or they don't become impatient and just, work with the first artist that they come across, right? That they actually vet, several artists and, get a lot of samples and stuff to make the right decision for themselves. And the other thing too is when you're working with an artist, for me, a good way to make sure that that person is using real art, that they're not taking advantage of you or scamming you, is, make sure that you're seeing every step of the process, right? All of my artists showed me the initial, layout sketches, and then, at least 4 examples of the pencils and the inks as they progressed. So every couple days I was getting updates and I could actually see the physical changes. And then you could see at the end, like, I can see exactly where all of this came together. If someone won't show you, samples along the way, they're very hesitant to share the pencils, the inks, the black and white, that could be a big red flag. You also want to make sure you can use the black and white art for marketing purposes, for posts and stuff. So I think it's really important that you have that mindset of just making sure that they are doing it the right way, and they shouldn't have a problem with showing you the different steps. The other thing too is, if you ask for very specific changes, like, first off, don't just accept whatever is given to you. Make sure that you're very specific and particular, right? Most artists should be open to making tweaks, especially if they're doing it digitally. It's much easier to make those tweaks. If, for example, something about the face or the hands, the claws, any musculature isn't exactly what you were envisioning, if you ask for changes and they have no problem doing it, and then you can physically see those, specific changes, then they're doing it right. If they're unwilling to make the changes, again, just be cautious, but just check your boxes, make sure you're paying attention. But if you just say, oh, I want it to kind of look like this, and then poof, like in 2 days, you have something completed and you didn't get to see anything along the way, yeah, might be AI. So, yeah, it's just been bothering me to see all these folks promoting these books with AI covers, and then you see them selling a lot of copies. So if they're selling a lot of copies, that excuse of I can't afford cover art, kind of goes right out the window. And you have people paying for a book with art that's not real. That's been, you know, it's composed of just this mashup of a bunch of other people's work that they didn't get paid for, they didn't get credit for, and no artist wins in that case. The only person that wins is the author, and possibly, if that author then offers those services for other people too, the AI art or whatever. Indies should be in this together. Writers should be promoting artists, vice versa. When you do pay for an artist to do your cover art, right, your work gives that artist a chance to get more exposure, to make more money, and it gives you a chance also to get more exposure, right? Because that artist will want to share your project, right, with all of their followers. They're going to want to be like, hey, look at this awesome cover art I did. Here's the writer. Go check it out. I get it. It's hard to front that money up. And maybe you got to work an extra shift. Maybe you got to be patient, wait 6 months, but it'll be worth it. Trust me. If you don't put in that extra effort, you risk it not making any money and then having to eventually invest more and do a new cover or something, which is what I did. I wasn't patient the first time. Second time I was, and it's definitely paying its dividends. So, it doesn't just help yourself to get great cover art. It helps somebody else that's, a creative that's passionate about creating real art. So, I don't think it's ethical. I don't think it should be accepted in the indie community. I know it might piss people off when I have this stance, but I'm just, yeah, I mean, I will never have it in any of my books. None of my current books have AI, no 3D assets, no shortcuts whatsoever. And I don't think we should be promoting and propping up the folks that are using major shortcuts, especially if they're not being upfront about it. We should be wanting everyone to do it the right way, right? Now, before I go, I of course want to promote a project. I try to promote folks whenever I have the chance. And so, today I want to talk about Von Klaus's Kataru Witch Hunter. Now, Von Klaus is a fantastic creator. I've worked with him personally. He did my trailer for my project, did a fantastic job. He's well known for books such as Monster MD and Terror in the Trenches, and he also promotes others. He's just a really, really good example in the community. And I know, his work is free from AI and 3D assets and all that as well. So I'm going to pull up some art so you guys get exposed to that. You'll be able to tell, this is for anyone that's a fan of Western comics as well as anime, manga. It's got a very nice balanced kind of approach to the art style, very vibrant and rich colors, great line work. So highly recommend you guys check this out. So here's just a quick little bit about it. So Kataru Witch Hunter. In the dark, twisted realm where shadows dance with malevolence and the supernatural intertwines with the mortal, emerges Kataru Witch Hunter, a gripping story of relentless witch hunting and bone-chilling battles, drawing inspiration from the masterpieces of Ninja Scroll, Vampire Hunter D, and Blade of the Immortal. Kataru Witch Hunter is a dark symphony of violence, mystery, and unforgiving vengeance. A roguish and enigmatic witch hunter named Kataru takes center stage. Armed with an arsenal of cursed weapons and a haunted past, Kataru vows to purge the world of these malevolent creatures or die trying. The story is 100% complete. It's going to be 58 colored pages. So again, everyone, please check this out. I will have a link in the description. It's on indiegogo.com. It's also on fundmycomic.com. This book should have a much higher funding than it does. So let's at least try to get it to 15K for now. But again, it should be doing a lot more funding. So yeah, please check it out. And of course, I appreciate you guys being here. And God bless.